Hi, today we're gonna talk about coagulation's complication. What is coagulation? It is a complex process by which the blood forms clots to block and then heal a lesion, wound, cut, and stop the bleeding. Coagulation involves a cellular, the platelets, and protein, the coagulation factors component.
At the site of vessel injury, the first platelets arrive to start sealing the wound. Simultaneously, the coagulation cascade with its various coagulation factors is activated. This involves two pathways, the extrinsic and the intrinsic pathway. Extrinsic activation begins with now exposed molecules of the vessel wall, such as tissue factor, which forms a complex with factor 7. Finally leading to the activation of factor 10. This factor 10A is the point at which the extrinsic and the intrinsic pathways of the coagulation cascade meet. The intrinsic pathway consists of various coagulation factors activating each other in a chain reaction. At its end, a complex with an additional cofactor is formed. This complex now activates factor 10. Since the two pathways merge at the level of factor 10A, this factor has a pivotal role in the coagulation cascade. Further down the cascade, factor 10A, in combination with 5A, activates thrombin and induces the so-called thrombin burst. One molecule of factor 10A can catalyze the formation of 1,000 molecules of thrombin. These large amounts of thrombin cause the further activation of platelets and the enhanced formation of fibrin. Fibrin then forms strands, making up the mesh that stabilizes the platelet plug in an arterial clot and holds together the red blood cells in a venous clot. It can be concluded that the central role of factor 10A in the coagulation cascade makes it a viable target for therapeutic intervention in pathologically altered blood coagulation.
One of the typical coagulation complications is the disseminating intravascular coagulation. It is an acquired coagulation disorder resulting from excessive activation of the coagulation systems. It arises as a complication of a variety of life-threatening conditions, the most common being sepsis, massive tissue injuries, burns, and obstetric complications. When you're injured, proteins in the blood that forms blood clots travel to the injury site to help stop bleeding. If you have disseminating intravascular coagulation, these proteins become abnormally active throughout the body. This may be due to inflammation, infection, or cancer. Small blood clots form in the blood vessels. Some of these clots can clog the vessels and cut off blood supply to organs such as the liver, brain, or kidney. Lack of blood flow can damage the organ and it may stop working properly. Now we can see a video about this. We can see the platelets. This is a case of septic responses to bacteria. There from the clot. The clot stops blood flow and oxygens to the tissues downstream, causing the tissue cells to die. And we can see how we can lose the tissue. The frequencies of disseminating intravascular coagulation may occur in 30 to 50% of patients with severe sepsis. Overall mortality rate quoted at 50 to 75%. Rate depends largely on the underlying disorder, but this disseminating intravascular coagulation worsens prognosis of all disorders. In the setting of major trauma, this roughly doubles mortality rate. Another of these complications we have von Willebrand disease. The von Willebrand disease is a blood disorder in which the blood does not clot properly. Blood contains many proteins that helps the body to stop bleeding. One of these proteins is called von Willebrand factor. People with von Willebrand disease either have a low level of this factor in their blood, or this factor protein doesn't work the way it should. Normally, when a person is injured and starts to bleed, this factor in the blood attacks to small blood cells called platelets. This helps the platelets stick together like a glue to form a clot at the site of injury and stop the bleeding. When a person hasn't, the clot might take longer to form or not form the way it should, and bleeding might take longer to stop. Here we can see how this factor works normally. When a vessel is injured, the von Willebrand factor helps the platelets to take together, acting like a glue. Also, to help in this procedure, we have another protein, but the von Willebrand factor is one of the most important. So when we haven't, we can do this procedure that we have seen. Another of these complications we have Hemofilia A. It is also known as factor A deficiency or classic hemophilia. It is largely an enriched disorder in which one of the proteins needed to form blood clots is missing or reduced. When a person with hemophilia is injured, he does not bleed harder or faster than a person without hemophilia. He bleeds longer. Small cuts or surface bruises are usually not a problem, but more traumatic injuries may result in serious problems and potential disability, called bleeding episodes. Now we can see more about it.
Let us return to the tissues and the blood vessel. Our two accomplices have initiated thrombin production. As a result, platelets are activated. However, at this stage, our genetic mutation will play an important role. This mutation in the DNA sequence results in factors 8 or 9 deficiency. The activated platelet is no longer stimulated by a series of factors. Consequently, thrombin production remains limited. As we can see, fibrinogen is no longer converted into fibrin. The amount of fibrin is insufficient, the number of activated platelets remains limited, and a stable clot cannot be formed. The vascular breach is not closed, and the hemorrhage cannot be controlled.
And that is how this hemophilia happens in the body of the person that have this problem. Now we are going to see a video about Playing is safe with hemophilia.
Hi, I'm Jason, and that's my big brother, Andrew, with our friends from camp, Caleb and Enrique. The four of us love to play sports. We also have something else in common. We all have hemophilia, a condition where we get painful bleeds in our muscles and joints that don't stop without special treatment. That's why our doctors tell us not to play any contact sports, like football, wrestling, or hockey. Our moms would like to keep us covered in bubble wrap. But we're not made of glass. We're kids. We need to move and play like other kids. We just need to think carefully about what sports we can and can't play. My brother, Andrew, didn't. He tried to play hockey and got a bleed in his groin. He had to use crutches to get around, but that caused another bleed, so he was put on bed rest. Andrew missed a lot of school and got pretty far behind. The nurse at our hemophilia treatment center suggested he switch to a safer sport, so he took up golf. And he got really good. He's the best golfer on his high school team. Caleb loved football. Of course, his parents didn't want him anywhere near a football field, but Caleb didn't want to just sit on the sidelines. He talked to the coach, who let him be a place kicker. With two guys on each side to protect him, he kicked 2 seasons. In high school, Caleb stopped kicking and became an assistant manager. He plans to go to college and major in sports management. Enrique and I both tried a lot of different sports, like t-ball, baseball, and basketball. Our parents made sure we infused before we played, but when we moved from middle to high school, the sports got rougher. Enrique tried wrestling, but after his first match, got an elbow bleed. He ignored it and didn't infuse. The next day, he couldn't even move his arm. Enrique quit wrestling and took up guitar. I just know he's going to be a rock star someday. Me? I was pretty good at soccer and could have played in high school, but switched to cross country because Dad said it's smarter. What I found I really enjoyed was competitive swimming. I love to race, and I'm pretty fast. I currently hold the state record for the freestyle. My goal is to go to the Olympics, just like Michael Phelps. No matter whether we have mild, moderate, or severe hemophilia, there's a sport out there for kids like us. We just need to be smart about the sport we choose. Carefully consider your options. Discuss your decision with your doctor and your parents. Then, make sure you're prepared to play it safe. For more information, see the following.
Well, I hope you have learned a little more about these coagulations complications. Bye.